What's up, guys? DLE Kamel here, back with another Master Duel video, and this time, guys, I'm going to show you a deck that I have been loving so much since I started playing Master Duel, and I have a feeling a lot of you all will also love it, my fellow Duel Links players who are coming to this game, and also to any of you who have joined us newly from Master Duel, you found out about us from Master Duel, thank you so much, and welcome to the DLE gang. Make sure you like and subscribe if you love the videos that we're doing. A lot of us here are TCG noobs, me and Rye, but PDS, our TCG guru, he is helping us out and keeping us up to speed. And the first thing I wanted to do was make, my first actual TCG deck. I have not played the TCG since 2014, so when I started Master Duel, I wanted to play something I've never played before. And I also wanted to make something different than my buddies Ryan PDS because I want to make something else for content on the channel. So I hit up Eldlich. Now, the only thing that I had heard about this deck before Master Duel was that it was a trap deck, and I liked the look of the monster. But I did not know just how good this deck is. So if you ever heard someone talk a little bit negatively about the TCG, they're probably referring to the fact that some decks, their goal is to make it so that your opponent does not really get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that is the entire focus of Eldlich. Eldlich, as you can see, it has, what is that, like 26 traps I'm running, along with some spells and monsters. So essentially, you use Eldlich, the Golden Lord, and he has a couple of trap monsters to assist him, and then you just use a lot of oppressive traps to making sure that you always have control over the board. So this is a really good control deck that just makes it so your opponent always has to play through all of your back row all the time. So let's get into some of the cards, and then I'll break them down one by one, and then we're going to explain what they do for the deck. Okay, so let's start with Eldlich, the Golden Lord himself. He is a level 10 zombie, and this is the only monster that you will be playing from this archetype. Crazy. So his first effect allows you to send any spell and trap from your hand to the graveyard along with himself, and then you target a card in the field and you send it to the graveyard, which is good for getting around destruction effects. Then if it is in your graveyard, you can send a spell or trap card on the field to the graveyard, and then you add this card to your hand, and the idea is you special summon it out right away, and it comes out at 3,500 and cannot be destroyed by card effects. That effect does come in clutch, and that's a very versatile boss monster. So level 10 monster that you can just bring out from using your traps for basically just no resources at all, and he is super big. So let's look at some of the other cards that assist him, which are his other archetype traps. First, the monsters. These are the bread and butter. So Aquero, the Golden Land, special summons itself as a zombie light level 5, which is very important for, your other traps that limit you based on type and attribute, as well as some Xyz summons that you can pull off because of this. And then if you control Eldlich, the Golden Lord, while you summon this card, you can banish one card from either graveyard. And so this is its second effect. When you have Eldlich on the field, these trap monsters gain effects once you summon them beside Eldlich. So they each have their own unique effect, but they also have the second effect, which is universal across all of them. So any Eldlich trap that has Golden Land in the name has this effect that says you can banish this card from your graveyard to set one Elixir spell trap directly from your deck. So if we take a look at the other Golden Land trap monster we're playing, this is called Conquistador of the Golden Land, and it's also a zombie light level 5 with a couple different stats, but its effect when it is summoned to the field beside Eldlich allows you to destroy one face-up card on the field, your own or your opponent's, and then you can banish it from the graveyard to set one Elixir spell trap directly from your deck. Boom. So these are our two Golden Land trap monsters, and you want to be using these at all times during the duel. When you have Eldlich on your field, you want to make sure that you have these set behind him so you can bring them out to interrupt your opponent during their combos. And you want to make sure if you don't have them on the field, then you have them on the grave so that you can set Elixir spells or traps during your end phase. So let's take a look at those Elixir cards. So the first Elixir card that we have is, boom, the most important one, Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. So this is a normal trap. Special summon one zombie monster from your deck or graveyard. Pretty powerful. But if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. For the rest of this turn, after it resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except zombies, so it's important to know that. It locks you to zombies after you activate. And then, you can banish this card from your graveyard to set one Golden Land spell trap directly from your deck. So, this card will get you Eldlich, even in attack position, from your deck or graveyard. So if you already used an Eldlich and you were unable to send a trap from your field to get it back, you can instead just activate this and get your Eldlich back out. And this will allow you to set a Golden Land spell trap. Now the thing about Scarlet Sanguine is that unlike the Golden Land trap monsters, this effect is activatable whenever. If you have your toggle on auto, you're going to get prompted pretty much all throughout your turn to activate Scarlet Sanguine. So you can banish Scarlet Sanguine from your graveyard and then set any Golden Land spell trap. This is extremely good for when you have Eldlich or when you get your board dismantled and you need to rebuild it very quickly with Golden Land stuff. Alright, so Scarlet Sanguine is the main Elixir trap you're going to be playing. You're also going to be playing this Elixir of Black Awakening. This card is not amazing, which is why I only play it at 1. So it special summons a zombie from your hand or deck in defense, and it has especially the same summoning restriction as Sanguine. But then for the rest of this turn, blah, 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 and you can banish it from your graveyard to set a Golden Land. So the only reason that I play one of these is just because it's an extra Golden Land, and it can help you get out of some pretty iffy situations, especially when you run out of traps. You can activate this, and then you can get your Eldlich combo going again. We also have here Golden Land Forever. This is a counter trap that says when a spell or trap card or a monster effect is activated, and while you control an Eldlich monster, tribute one zombie monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So obviously this is the counter trap, so it's you're gonna play one. However, I don't really like its effect because you have to tribute an Eldlich monster. It says tribute a zombie, but you're mostly just going to be tributing Eldlich. You can also tribute one of your trap monsters, however, but at the end of the day, you have to be careful. And there's better traps that have this effect, then they do more. But the reason we play this is because it is a Golden Land and it's a counter trap, so you can search it and set it straight from the deck just by activating Elixir. You can set your counter trap with this effect, which is pretty nice. Okay, the last engine card that we have to talk about is Cursed Eldland, and this says you cannot declare attacks except with zombie monsters, and then it has 2 effects once you activate it onto the field. The first is you can pay 800 life points, add one Eldlich monster or Golden Land spell trap from your deck to your hand. And then its second effect is if this card is set from the spell and trap card zone to the graveyard, you can send one Eldlich monster or one Golden Land spell and trap card from the deck. So really quickly, I'm going to tell you of a quick combo. So essentially, you want to activate Cursed Eldland, and then you want to pay 800 life points, search for an Eldlich, the Golden Lord, and then you can utilize the Golden Lord's effect to send itself and another trap to the grave to send one monster or one card from your opponent's field to the graveyard. And then once your Eldlich is in the graveyard, you can summon it back by sending the face up Cursed Eldland to the graveyard, and then you will get Cursed Eldland's second effect, which lets you send an Eldlich monster or Golden Land spell trap from your deck to the graveyard. And what do you want to do once you send something to the graveyard? You want to send one of these guys, Haquero of the Golden Land or Conquistador, because what these guys will do is in the end phase, they will set an Elixir from your deck. And the Elixir that you want to set is Scarlet Sanguine. This will help you get back your Eldlich from the graveyard or get another one from the deck. So I really like the way all these cards work together. There's only one monster, but the traps that are associated with this archetype give you so much value and let you rotate your cards super duper efficiently. If you liked playing Odeon in Duel Links, dude, Eldlich is the deck for you. I feel like I'm Odeon when I'm playing this deck. So now we've gone over all of the generic or all of the engine cards in this deck. Let's go over the hand traps and the other traps that we have. So you can see at the top here, I play 3 Ash Blossoms and Joyous Spring because it is a zombie and it is a hand trap that synergizes with my deck. And Ash Blossoms is just super powerful. You get one for free and it lets you negate when your opponent tries to add a card from the deck to the hand, special summon from the deck, or send a card from the deck to the graveyard. And the reason why this is so good in this deck is because when you go second and your opponent is making their first turn play, you feel kind of helpless because there's not much you can do. Your entire deck is built around limiting your opponent, and this is the one time where you can't use traps against your opponent at all. So having an Ash Blossom in your hand to stop your opponent from pulling off one of their huge search plays is so important, so you can start your first turn not having to deal with much. It's also a zombie, so you can special summon it with any of those cards, especially summon zombies. I don't know why you would, but you can then tribute it off for Golden Land Forever as well. So that's just a little bit of synergy. Ash Blossom is super good, and I would recommend, if you're gonna play this deck, work your way up to crafting 3, because I think you're gonna need it for a lot of other decks as well. So for my flex spell cards, I play Pot of Duality and I play Pot of Prosperity. So why do I play the pots? I play the pot cards because they are consistency and they help you get to your Eldlich cards if you open a hand without any, and if you open a hand without many effective and floodgating trap cards, then you can also use these cards to get some of those. So Pot of Duality, it lets you execute the top 3 cards of your deck, then add one of them to your hand, and then you shuffle the rest into your deck. It does, however, prevent you from special summoning, but in this deck, that is not so much of a problem, because after you activate Pot of Duality, the main thing you want to do is set up traps for the next turn. If you're using Pot of Duality, you know I cannot special summon, so I don't really want to get an Eldlich the Golden Lord to my hand. I instead want to look for something like Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine, which will instead get me my Eldlich next turn straight from my deck, or I want to start getting some Conquistadors or Haqueros so that I can bring them out onto the field so they can be sent to the grave later, and I can just, start getting Golden Lands out. You want to use Pot of Duality to perfect your setup. Because you cannot special summon, you cannot push offensively, so you need to get whatever you need. If you need more Elixir cards, Eldlich cards in your hand, go for that. If you need more Toxic back row, you go for that. All right, then we have Pot of Prosperity, which works a little bit differently. This requires you to banish 3 or 6 cards of your choice from your extra deck face down, and then for the rest of the turn, any damage your opponent takes is halved, and then you excavate the top cards of your deck equal to how many you banish, and you add 1 to your hand. So in conjunction with this, I play a full extra deck with a lot of cards that are useless that I will never be using, that I have in my extra deck for the sole purpose of banishing for Pot of Prosperity. Now, another card that you could play in... Alright, that was weird. Anyway, I don't like Pot of Extravagance because this says to banish 3 or 6 random face down cards from your extra deck, and there are a couple cards in your extra deck that you will be utilizing, so you have a chance of losing those, so I don't really like Pot of Extravagance for that reason. That's why I go with Pot of Prosperity and Duality instead. You can opt to go for 3 and 3. I play 5 at the moment, but that's something that you can change up your ratios, and you just have to make it work for you. So the next cards that I want to talk about are the Floodgates. And the Floodgates on this deck are super important. They help you win so many duels, and a lot of these things are available in Master Duel where they were not available in the TCGs. For example, the most infamous card in this entire deck is Skill Drain. Skill Drain is absolutely busted. It's a continuous trap that says activate by paying 1,000 life points, negate the effects of all face-up monsters while they are face-up on the field, but their effects can still be activated. Guys, you do not know how many games I win just by flipping up Skill Drain on my turn and my opponent cannot complete their combos. So many decks in Master Duel are 100% reliant on monster effects and monster chain special summoning and link monsters using their effects when they're on the field. Skill drain for 1,000 life points, a one-time cost of 1,000 life points, says no to all effects on the field. This card is at 1 in the TCG, I believe. It is at 3 in Master Duel, and it is absolutely insane. And it's one of the reasons why this deck is so busted. You yourself do not get hindered by skill drain because your trap monsters, right, that have these effects that activate beside your Eldlich. Well, guess what, dude? These count as traps while they're on the field, so they don't get negated by skill drain. Isn't that absolutely insane? So you're completely immune to skill drain, and your opponent has to just play under it the entire time. Now, skill drain is an absolute must for this deck, and it is only available in the Master Pack, so you're probably going to have to craft it up for that. So let's talk about some of the other Floodgates that are also very toxic and effective. Next, we've got Goes in Match. Each player can only control one attribute of monster. Send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So this is really good against decks like Heroes or Prank Kids. Maybe Prank Kids. It's also kind of good against Tri-Brigade. Not if they're playing Bird Up, though, and everything is Wind. It's also very good against the Cybers deck. A lot of people have been playing. They have like lights and darks, and you can choose to lock them down to something. But of course, you have to pay attention to the deck your opponent is playing before you full commit to a card like this. If you see your opponent playing a deck like Phantom Knights, you know that all of the monsters are going to be dark. If you see them playing vampires, they're all going to be dark. If you see them playing Fire Kings, they're all going to be fire. So Goes in Match will not do you much good in those matchups. And when you can determine that Goes in Match is not going to be good for you, Goes in Match then becomes one of the traps that you will always send to the graveyard for your Eldlich. This has no value to you, so you always just set it to send away. Set it to send away to the graveyard. And that's part of the reason why, this deck works so great, because even if your Floodgates are not super effective, you can just send them to the graveyard instead of sending your useful Floodgates with Eldlich. The next Floodgate that we have is Rivalry of the Warlords. It's a continuous trap that says each player can only control one type of monster. Send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So this doesn't matter to us because everything we have is all zombie except for our extra deck. And this will hurt your opponent if they are playing a deck that has like coinciding archetypes. Maybe they play two archetypes together and they just synergize very well, but they're not the same type. Or if they're trying to summon a tech card that is outside of their archetype and it's a different type, you can just activate this and they'll be forced to choose between the two types. Now, I've used the word Floodgate a couple times, but we haven't seen Floodgate Trap Hole. So what's a Floodgate, dude? Floodgates are basically cards that make it so your opponent cannot play. They shut down a certain avenue of play for your opponent, and they are forced to play around them unless they can remove these cards. The next Floodgate that we have is Imperial Order, and this is limited to 1 and for good reason. It says negate all spell effects on the field. Once per turn during the standby phase, you must pay 700. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. So yeah, you are forced to pay this every turn, both standby phases, you and your opponents, but this card is just oh so effective. If you're able to go first with Imperial Order, flip it up, your opponent activates their vital spell cards that they need to progress their combo that turn, yeah, they're done after that, dude. There is nothing they can do. Their spells are negated, and all of them will be negated henceforth. Okay, so those are all of the Floodgates. Now let's look into some of these other negate cards that I have in here. I'm running 3 Solemn Strike. I think this is a must in this deck because some of your other effects, they don't really do much about your opponent summoning. These Floodgates are preventing our opponent from, getting out certain things without accruing too many monsters on the field, and Skill Drain is negating their effects. Now we have Solemn Strike to negate their summons. So Solemn Strike says, when a monster would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, pay 1,500 life points, negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Now, something I had to learn the hard way about Solemn Strike is that it only works against, like, inherent summons. It only works against link summons or, like, Xyz summons or tribute summons or special summons of the card themselves. if your opponent uses a card like Dragon Maid Fusion, which I went up against yesterday, you cannot Solemn Strike the monster that they summon with Dragon Maid Fusion or Thunder Dragon Fusion, whatever. Instead, what you can then do is activate Solemn Strike when that monster activates their effect. Then you negate the summoner activation and destroy it. So that's a good way to get around it if they do summon using a fusion spell, which is the only situation where this card doesn't work. But yeah, this is another absolutely amazing card. You want to see it in your opening hand. If you don't have any hard negates, you definitely want to pick this up with either of your Pot of Duality or your Pot of Prosperity. Next, I'm playing the one of Solemn Judgment that I got from the bundle deal, and I think you should play this too. Definitely worth if you're ever about to get hit by a lightning storm, which will destroy all of your spell and trap cards. You have to instantly Solemn Judgment that. You do not have a choice because you cannot lose 5 traps in Eldlich. Your traps are your strength, and even though you will get back some traps for having them sent to the graveyard, you really want to keep your traps that are not Eldlich traps, like your Floodgates, like your Negates, and you will lose those if you get hit by a Lightning Storm, which is why you need Solemn Judgment. Okay, so next I want to talk about some of these other cards that are in the deck. There's only a few of them I haven't talked about, and they are here because I am free to play, dude. I'm free to play, and I believe that this deck is super free to play friendly, because traps are universal. Yes, there are some best in slot traps, but you do not have to have all of them, and there are a lot of free traps that are also very good. They're rares and normals that you can put in your deck if you don't have triple Solemn Judgment, triple Solemn Strike, you know, these big UR traps. So the first one that I'm playing is 3 Torrential Tribute. If you watch PDS's low rarity text video, this is in it. When a monster is summoned, destroy all monsters on the field. So this is basically your huge threat if your opponent is building a board and all you have out on your field is like an Eldlich or a trap monster or nothing at all. You Torrential Tribute, man. If your opponent is putting up stuff on the board that you cannot negate, you wait until they bring out another big boss monster, albeit make sure that it can be destroyed by card effects. You Torrential Tribute that thing. The good thing about Torrential Tribute, it does not target, and it just destroys everything. So a lot of archetypes that maybe are not meta, but they have annoying monsters to deal with that cannot be targeted, Torrential Tribute gets around that, and it is super effective at 3. I absolutely love it. Next, we've got Divine Wrath. Divine Wrath is Divine Wrath. It is a normal, so I like playing it, and it just negates monster effects. The other good thing about it is that it requires you to discard a card, which is always good because you can discard one of your Eldlich traps in order to get this effect. Now, there is a couple other cards that I want to talk about that I don't play in my deck, but you might want to consider playing them if you're playing Eldlich. So the first one is Card of Demise. This card is also at 3 in Master Duel, but I think it's banned in the TCG, and this is a card that a lot of people like to play. Draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent takes no damage. During the end phase of this turn, send your entire hand to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 Card of Demise per turn. So this is good because what you want to do is set your entire field except Card of Demise. Then you draw 3 cards, and then out of the 3 cards that you draw, you use what you can, and then they're all sent to the graveyard. And it's not bad if they get sent to the graveyard, because if you draw Eldlich or any of your Eldlich traps, them getting sent to the graveyard is what you want, because it will help you further your engine. Your Golden Land traps will get you Elixir. Your Eldlich gets sent to the grave. You'll be able to use it next turn or bring it out with an Elixir that you have on the field. So Card of Demise does work very well. There is also another card that I wanted to look at, and that is Vanity's Emptiness. Now, this card is an ultra rare limited one, so I did not craft it just because at the moment I did not have the resources. And this says neither player can special summon monsters if a card is sent from the deck or field to the graveyard. Destroy this card. Now, a lot of people really like this card, and it's in pretty much every optimal list that I've seen. I do not like it. I don't like the fact that if a card is sent from the deck or the field to the graveyard, then this card is gone. I think it's gone way too quickly. And as a one of UR, I personally feel like it's really easy to get around. But if you have it, or if you have the materials, go ahead and put that thing in your deck, man. Let me know how it works. Also, here we've got the extra deck. Now, the Eldlich extra deck is 100%, I believe it's 100% optimal, but there are 2 cards which I do think you need to have in here, which will help you win so many duels. The first one is Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. So this is a rank 10 Train Xyz monster, and it requires 2 level 10 monsters, and it says once per turn you can detach and inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. So this is a part of a little OTK PDS showed me. If you're able to get out 2 Eldlich monsters, one with 2,500 and one with 3,500, you can deal your opponent 6,000 damage, and then in the main phase 2, you Xyz summon for Gustav Max. Now, there are a couple things that would prevent you from using this, like you cannot use Elixir of a Black Awakening or Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine on the turn you want to summon Gustav Max, because Gustav Max is a machine and these cards lock you to zombies. So if you want to use Gustav Max, you have to use these cards the turn before, so that your 2 Eldlich monsters are not limited to 2 zombies only. This card wins me so many duels because I can attack with 2 Eldlich, and then main phase 2 they don't have anything. I just win the duel right there, and it threatens, negates, and all this other stuff because people, they don't see it coming. And the other, what I would say is pretty necessary, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it is another win more card, is Constellar Pallades. This is my favorite card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh, hands down, and I kind of want to play the Constellar deck. So this is a rank 5 that requires 2 level 5 light monsters, and it has a quick effect. It says you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 card on the field, return that target to the hand. So yes, this is a quick effect bounce, and you can summon this by overlaying your 2 trap monsters. One thing to be careful of though, if you have Rivalry of the Warlords, you are going to be in trouble if you try to summon this card, because it is a warrior and your guys are zombies. So make sure you don't have Rivalry of the Warlords face up when you try to go for Pallades. The only other monster, there's a couple other monsters in here that are kind of good. I have Zeus, for the fact that when you're if your Pallades attacks, you can then go into Zeus and then threaten a board wipe the next turn by detaching 2. And then I also have Vampire Sucker. This requires 2 zombies. You can link off your Golden Lands or an Ash Blossom, and then you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your opponent's field in defense, but it becomes a zombie monster. If a zombie monster is special summoned from either graveyard, you draw 1 card. So you draw a card for special summoning to your opponent's field, and then you can do whatever you want with that monster. You can just swing over it. This will just get you another card. Also, there's Link Spider, and yeah, there's not too much about him, but he just gets off one of your Conquistadors into the graveyard, so you can then use their graveyard effect. And I believe that that is it for my deck, for my Eldlich deck. I love this deck so much. It's so toxic, but it gets the job done. And coming from Duel Links, you know, someone who is not really in tune with all the high combo, you know, high priority plays, you know, linking this, linking that, this is a deck that you can play almost entirely without touching the extra deck, with just some Xyz monsters to help you win more duels. So let me know what you guys think about Eldlich. I'm absolutely loving it, and I got platinum with this list. So now let's watch some replays. They are pretty insane. I even got a great replay against someone who was using PDS's deck list on the ladder. So let's get into those replays. Guys, if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Join the Daily gang. Join the Daily Discord. We have a Master Duel section now. We're helping people with Master Duel build the best decks, build the decks that they want, free to play, because that's what this game is all about, baby. So peace out and enjoy the replays.